It's been a while since my last laptop review, so when Microsoft offered to send out their new Surface laptop to check out, I said, heck yes! This is the new 15-inch Surface Laptop 4 in the most badass matte black color I've seen on a product in years. I'm not gonna lie, this thing almost made me switch back to using a Windows laptop, and if I didn't have to send it back, I probably actually would have switched to it full time. It's a great laptop that definitely has some strange little quirks that we're gonna get into, but first, let's talk about one of my favorite things when it comes to Microsoft products: the build quality. The Surface Laptop 4 has a very clean, let's get straight to business look to it that Microsoft has been leaning into with most of their product lines. Despite it being a 15-inch laptop, it's actually very thin and light at 2.8 pounds. That's pretty much just as light as most 13-inch laptops. The casing is made from aluminum, it has very little flex, and the laptop overall feels very premium. The Surface Laptop 4 is equipped with a 15-inch PixelSense display that has a 3:2 aspect ratio and a resolution of 2496 by 1664, so it's basically a 1440p display but altered to fit that 3:2 aspect ratio. There's a couple of things about this display that I really like and a couple of things that I really don't like. On the one hand, this display has 10-point multi-touch support and works with Microsoft's Surface Pen. It's definitely nice and sharp, and it gets bright enough to use in a very bright office space too. The thing is, this display is very glossy and picks up reflections like crazy, and it doesn't have the best color accuracy or viewing angles. I tested the display with my Datacolor Spider X Pro, and I got measurements of 95% coverage in sRGB and only 71% in Adobe RGB. sRGB is fine if you want to do some photo editing for the web, but that Adobe RGB coverage is not going to be accurate enough for professional work that you want to print. In everyday use though, the display is great. Having a touchscreen on a Windows laptop is something that I completely forgot I enjoyed, and it does speed up my workflow a bit in certain scenarios. Most of the time I use the Surface Laptop's trackpad. It's easily one of the best trackpads on any laptop out there. I think I would have liked a slightly larger one to fill the space between the keyboard and the outer edge a little better, but I mean, that's just for aesthetics. It's definitely big enough to actually use. The keyboard is great too. The keys themselves are a touch on the mushy side, but they are very quiet, and for this kind of laptop that may be used in a business environment or in like a classroom or something, I think that's the right trade-off to make. The keys are backlit too, which is pretty much a necessity for a matte black laptop. Now, when you first look at the Surface Laptop, you might be a little confused because there's no holes anywhere for speakers. I mean, the laptop has to have speakers, right? That's because they're hidden underneath the keyboard, and I don't know how they did this, but they actually sound pretty decent. Some Ultrabook laptops have fingerprint readers built into the keyboard, but the Surface Laptop 4 instead opts to use a specialized Windows Hello camera to identify you and quickly log you in. I've got no complaints about that. It's worked flawlessly almost every single time that I've turned on the laptop. In addition to the Windows Hello camera, the laptop also has a 720p webcam for video calls. It's not the best webcam I've seen, and I definitely would have liked for Microsoft to put a higher quality webcam in here since a lot of us are working from home, but it's fine. One of my biggest disappointments when it comes to a lot of laptops these days is the lack of ports, or I/O, and the Surface Laptop 4 is no different. It's got one USB-A port, one USB-C port, a headphone jack, and the Surface Connect port for charging. That's it. To be honest, I would have been fine with this if the USB-C port was instead a Thunderbolt 3 or Thunderbolt 4 port, and if it supported any sort of power delivery for charging, but it has neither of those things. It's just a plain old USB-C Gen 2 port. If it was Thunderbolt 3 compatible, you could hook up an eGPU for better gaming performance or a Thunderbolt 3 display, which charges your device at the same time. Nevertheless, the Surface Laptop 4 has performed decently well in my testing. I have the AMD version of the laptop with the Ryzen 7 4980U and 16 gigs of RAM. It ran Geekbench 5 scores of 1137 in single core and 6902 in multi-core, putting it right up there with Apple's 16-inch MacBook Pro and Dell's XPS 15. Very similar story in Cinebench R15, although this time the Surface Laptop 4 actually beats out Apple's 16-inch MacBook Pro and the XPS 15 in multi-core and falls slightly behind in single core. Despite not having a dedicated GPU in this laptop, the integrated graphics on the 4980U performed surprisingly well in most esports titles I tested too. Now, don't expect it to do any Call of Duty Warzone gaming at respectable frame rates on this machine, but on easier to run games like, League of Legends, Overwatch, Overwatch and Valorant, the Surface Laptop 4 will do just fine. The laptop also does surprisingly well in the battery life department, despite having a relatively small 47 watt-hour battery. Now, Microsoft claims that I should be able to get up to 17.5 hours of battery life, but in reality, I get around 9 to 10-ish hours of life with mixed usage. Still though, 10 hours of battery life is nothing to scoff at. That will easily get you through a full day or even 2. This is a great laptop. It's built well, it's thin and light for a 15-inch device, it's got a sharp touchscreen, great performance, great battery life, and I think it's the perfect choice for anyone in the business world that's looking to pick up a premium Ultrabook, which I think is exactly the target audience Microsoft was shooting for with this device. That said, I really hope Microsoft improves the port situation on the next iteration of this laptop, and I hope they do something different to change up the look of this device. It's starting to look a little bit dated with those big bezels. If they can do that, I think I'd be able to recommend this laptop even more than I already do. Thanks for watching, and as always, have a great day.